As this one, I have covering the chromatic scale in the main octave, in the main septic along here. This one reaches down. So in other words, this one is set to pa, da, ni, sa, back up to re, and then the other ones go in the ones in between. So this again is chromatic, but it extends lower. And I've done this, accomplished this by using brass and bronze strings. Now we have a third group of sympathetic strings that are up here. Now these are different in that they go to these flat bridges, which are referred to as Javadis. Now what I have done is I have strung them and tuned them to whatever the rag I'm actually playing. So that means this is the only bank that I need to retune according to whatever the piece I'm playing with. Obviously it's much more practical to only retune one bank than having to retune two banks. Now I've done also something else a little bit unusual here. Notice that I have put these little threads in here. These are the same approach which are used by tambura players. Let me show you what it does. If you listen to the sound here, you can change the sound, the quality of sound, according to the position of the thread. Look very closely here. And when you find just a sweet spot, the sound sort of opens up. And I have done this on all of these. You may find that if you want to do that, you may want to do a little more Javadi work and file off the backs of the Javadi so that the contour is more gentle. That gives you a little better control by way of these little bits of thread. Now there's one more string that needs to be mentioned, and many instruments do not even have it. This instrument is a vestige of the old days of the folk sarangis that didn't have 30 some odd strings but really only had 4 strings, and that's a single drone string which comes out of here. There, now it's in tune. This I'm setting to sa. This I have a brass string that runs from here. I actually have it going to this knob, but a lot of people reverse it. That's okay. It goes to this knob here, comes into here, and then goes and then connects on the bridge. I have mine connecting here. Some people will have it connecting under here. This particular drone string is a vestige. As I said, it's really a sort of superfluous, and many prefer to leave it out. Now let's look and see which groups of pegs control it. These groups of pegs control the Javadi strings. Now most people will string them in such a way that there's the minimum distance between the peg and the hole going in here. But I find that when you do that, some will tighten in a counterclockwise fashion, some will tighten in a clockwise fashion, and I find that confusing. I have other instruments, I have dilrubas and SRANGIs, and just as a matter of general principle, I standardize everything so that these will tighten in a counterclockwise fashion. So the way I have done, which as again I'm going to tell you is a little bit unconventional, is in order to keep track of it, I move diagonally in patterns like this. So I start with the alternate one, the first string, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, moving into the next Javadi, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. That works for me. You may find something works better, something different works for you. Now, let's again look at the pegs for this group here. The one that, as I said, I have restrung and put brass strings on. That will be controlled by these pegs right here. This is fairly intuitive. That's pretty intuitive. If you look in the back here, see how all the pegs will control? That's kind of interesting, but you know, it can be kind of daunting and won't give you too much information looking at the back because there's just so much stuff in here. So anyhow, getting back, looking at it, this bank right here of pegs controls this group of little, these little moguras. See these little moguras right in here? Each one is, it's very intuitive which one controls what. Now you see these other two banks of pegs here. This is somewhat less intuitive. I found that since I am tuning this mogura right here to Sa, that corresponds to this particular kunti here. So this would be Sa, Komal Re, Shuddha Re, Komal Ga, Shuddha Ga, Ma. Okay? Tivra Ma, Pa, Komal Dha, Shuddha Dha, Komal Ni, Shuddha Ni, Sa, Komal Re, and then again Shuddha Re. And again, I must say that's what works for me. According, if you are not tuning chromatically, or if you're tuning chromatically but starting in a different note, you may find that yours will work differently. Well, again, that's basically everything in a nutshell. But you should also remember one thing. It's always a good idea when you're first working on the instrument to take the kuntis out, liberally put chalk on it and put it back. If you look very carefully, it just so happens that I've been using a purple chalk, so if you look very closely you can see that there's still purple chalk in here. That will make your life much easier, especially if you're dealing with a brand new instrument. Again, there's really no substitute for experimentation. I hope that we have discussed a lot of the issues that may give you some insight into the process, but in the final analysis, in the final, say it's going to be your own experimentation that determines how you tune your sarangi. Thank you. Namaste.